The Princess of Montpensier, which is the latest from Bertrand Tavernier, he was 70, I think he's 70, maybe 69, 70. God, I was 80. I think Tavernier's 70. I interviewed Tavernier years and years ago, and I went into this brilliant rant about what auteur, what an auteur really is. You know, auteur is the French word for auteur in author cinema, where the director is in charge. And he was getting really cross because this was at the point when the Americans were trying to claim that a body, an industry body, could actually be an auteur. And I remember him saying, "Yes, so what? Warner Brothers is the auteur of Casablanca? It is obscene. It is a crime." And he was great because he's one of those people.
He's got the same French accent.
I know. It's the only one I do. He's one of those people who really love cinema. Now, this is based on a story by Madame de Lafayette, 16th century France, conflict between the Huguenots and the Catholics. You've got Marie, who's Melanie Thierry, who's in love with, on the one hand, the wild, animalistic Henri de Guise, but she is married off to the more boring but staid Prince de Montpensier. She marries him, devotes her life to him, but obviously is torn in her passion between that and actually the person that she wanted to marry. Meanwhile, Lambert Wilson, who was so brilliant in Of Gods and Men, which remains one of the really outstanding films of the last decade, plays a deserter who has had it with religious warfare because it's brought him to commit horrible acts of violence, and he deserts and then finds himself charged with teaching this young woman in the ways of the court, teaching her poetry, teaching her about the stars, teaching her about the world, and of course what happens is he falls in love with her. So it becomes a love triangle. Now, on the surface, this looks like, okay, it's a bit of costume filmmaking, it's period, it's a love triangle, there's some stuff on horseback, there's some battles, there's, it could potentially be a bodice ripper. What's interesting about it is it's so much more than that. And I was really genuinely impressed by this film. I'm really genuinely surprised by how much I was impressed by it. And the reasons I was impressed was, one, the performances are great, particularly Lambert Wilson, who is really fantastic. Two, the film is surprisingly sprightly. I mean, the director is 70 years old, but he might as well have been, 22. The film really does gallop along like the horses. The allegiances between the central characters are constantly changing. They're genuinely mercurial. You don't know which way they're going to go. All the characters are fully etched, rounded, genuinely ambiguous. It's not simplified. It's not, in any way just sort of crass caricatures. It's very interesting on the subject of class, of responsibility to class, of social order. There's a wonderful speech in it in which Lambert Wilson does this whole speech about the stars in the heavens all understanding their place. The big stars with the small stars orbiting around them is a way of keeping the celestial. And it's a kind of meditation upon class and politics, and also upon the relationship between church and state. But all done within the context of something that actually looks like a convoluted love triangle with a lot of riding around on horses and some battles. And I mention it because, firstly, I really enjoyed it. I genuinely really enjoyed it. Secondly, because in a week in which the Terrence Malick film came out and I was bemoaning the thing about, I do like narrative. I like narrative. There's nothing I can do about that. It was a very good example of, this is a narrative film. On the surface, the story is about three people all in love with the same woman, and the woman torn between her affections between them. Okay? Actually, what it's about is religion, class, gender warfare, the role of women in society, the role of men in society.
I was quite interested in the other plot.
Exactly, but that's the point. You see, you watch the other plot, but all this other stuff comes in around the edges of it. So, we're moving toward your question about movie of the week.
Well,
right.
It's a little bit early because there's a full minute.
Well, what I was going to say was, it's foolish in a week that Tree of Life is out not to acknowledge that in the great history of cinema, Tree of Life is the most important thing that's out this week. But I'd say the film of the week is a double bill between that and Princess of Montpensier, because that demonstrates the thing about narrative, the thing about the way in which narrative cinema can achieve profundity by looking to the side of something. I mean, in the end, Tree of Life disappointed me because it's not Terrence Malick's best work, whereas the Tavernier thrilled me because I really didn't expect that film to be that good.